not prepared!
Welcome to another Top 5 with Kris 05, guys. Today we're gonna look at what are the 5 best performing decks in the current meta. Not much has changed since the last couple of top 5s, but I'm still trying to give you guys the best performing actual versions of those decks as well, so this should still be quite useful for you. Some decks have actually opted for some pretty interesting choices, so you best be prepared to be expecting those from them. If you guys are serious about Hearthstone and you want to get better at the game, definitely consider subscribing, because I do my best to give you guys weekly meta reports as well as some good quality Hearthstone guides and tips. On today's stream, I will be doing another coaching session giveaway courtesy of Kim T, so if you guys want to have a coaching session with me, make sure to be on today's stream, which starts in 5:30 GMT plus free. All you gotta do to enter the giveaway is drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and make sure to leave a comment including coaching giveaway in the comment section, as well as your Discord tag, so I can contact you quickly. If you guys don't win the giveaway but still want the coaching session from me, just remember, if you wanna climb with me, baby, there's a price to pay. It's $20 per hour or 50 per free. What the hell was that? Anyway, let's get into the video. Okay, so the first list, again, obviously Naga Demon Hunter. The problem about Naga Demon Hunter right now is everybody is either playing it or is playing against it, so you're not actually gonna have as easy of a time climbing with it anymore. This particular version of the deck is actually pretty intriguing because it does include our Druid Nerlex as well as one Viper, and those two feel pretty clutch in some games, especially against Control Warrior for instance. The genius part about Nerlex is, one of the dream cards you can get is the 0-mana Nightmare, which gives you +4/+4, and you can imagine what happens if you slap that on your Lady Steno for instance. She starts clapping for literal fireballs for each spell cast, and that can be a huge amount of damage pretty quickly. The other dream cards ain't too bad either, and you can get a 1-mana Sap for instance, the 2-mana Laughing Sister, which is a pretty chunky minion, as well as the Emerald Drake, which as well is pretty good for its mana cost, and also Asera Awakens, which could feel pretty decent in some matchups as well, if the game is pretty board-centric especially. You obviously don't really want to be playing Nerlex in aggro matchups if you have better options, but getting him pulled from Drektar or just playing him in control matchups is pretty good. Viper on the other hand, obviously a pretty good minion, with a great effect with all the weapons in the current meta, as well as the tradable is pretty decent as well, cause you get to draw something else instead. What we cut in this list in order to fit these two is one Treasure Guard, but you could also consider cutting one Fel Barrage instead, and that also seems to work. Other than that, the list is pretty much the same, and I definitely feel it should be nerfed pretty soon. You can check out my detailed Demon Hunter guide, with some gameplay included in it as well, so you can have a better idea of how to play with and against this deck. Matchup wise, here's what it looks like. Paladins could be 50-50 against you, and also Control Warrior could be pretty hard as well. But everything else is pretty much deep in the green, so you should be fine climbing with this deck. Mulligan wise, going first and second, Drektar is usually always gonna be a keep. Battleswarm Vanguard is also usually a keep, unless you're against the warrior, in which case you might think twice. The 1-drop Naga is also pretty awesome, Weapon could be pretty good too, and also Kurtrus could be a pretty good keep if you're against the warrior, let's say. But I wouldn't really keep him when going first against faster matchups. Mankrik can also be pretty decent, and if you have Spectral Sight already outcasted, that might also be a keep. If you're against the warrior, I could consider keeping Nerlex as well. On the coin, still Drektar at the top. Weapon, Predation becomes a lot better because you are going second, therefore you need to be more reactive. Battleswarm Vanguard is still pretty nice, as well as the Naga. Mankrik feels good, Multi-Strike become even better, and in this case, for me, Kurtrus becomes a lot more keepable as well. All in all, the deck is definitely in for a nerf, but it's probably still gonna remain strong even after that, so keep that in mind. People are speculating that Drektar might start only summoning 1 minion instead of 2, and also Multi-Strike might get bumped up to 2 mana instead. So yeah, be careful if you're afraid of those nerfs. For other good Demon Hunter decks, you basically have a ton of other different iterations of Naga Demon Hunter. Also, Fel Demon Hunter is still doing somewhat okay, but yeah, everything else seems to be a bait so far. On the number 2 spot, for the 3rd week in a row, it's gonna be Control Warrior again. The reason why Control Warrior is so strong is basically Demon Hunter. If you've played ladder lately, you would notice there's just too much Demon Hunter out there, and Warrior, if piloted correctly, just farms those. This version is dropping Rancor in order to include a Viper instead, and it does feel like everybody is trying to play around Rancor nowadays anyway, so you're better off just including something a little bit more reliable, I guess. We still have the Gorlock Ravager in this one, which draws you a ton of Murlocs, including Mutinous, Sir Finley, and your 2 Amalgams. You still have Brand Bronzebeard, so you can double up your school teachers, as well as what comes out from them, and also Mutinous gets doubled up pretty nicely that way, or you can even double up Nelly for 6 pirates instead of 3. But yeah, all in all the list remains pretty much the same. Matchup wise, it's pretty polarizing, and all of the value-oriented druids are gonna have better value over you. Boar Priest is also gonna be wrecking you, as well as Shellfish Priest, and some of the paladins can be pretty hard as well. Quest Warrior is also gonna be pretty strong against you, because the Juggernaut is just still too strong. Mulligan wise, you are a control deck, so it's really gonna heavily depend on what you're playing against, but usually Shield Shatter plus Frozen Buckler is always gonna be a nice keep. Outrider's Axe also makes a lot of sense, from the depths as well. Shield Slam can be pretty clutch, Heavy Plate, and maybe even Gorlock Ravager. Shield Block also makes sense, and even Rukara might make the cut, especially if you already have some good stuff. One on the coin, this is what it looks like, and again, it's pretty much close to the same. Sir Finley might also be a considered keep in this case. And that combo works really well with From the Depths. All in all, the deck is pretty expensive, and people are also considering this deck might get nerfed, but honestly, if Naga Demon Hunter gets nerfed, that would be a nerf alone to this deck, because that's its best matchup. For other good warrior decks, Charge Warrior almost made the cut for this top 5, and as you can see, even Quest Warrior is still pretty much holding its own, so people are just sleeping on it just because it got nerfed. But yeah, you basically have those 3 archetypes for warrior right now. Next up on the list, again, Quest Hunter has to make the spot. Quest Hunter is a pretty reliable deck nowadays, and this deck will be holding its own both against Naga Demon Hunter, and it's actually pretty favored against Control Warrior as well, if you know how to play it. When playing against Control Warrior, you basically hard mulligan for Beaststalker Tavish and try not to complete the second step of the quest before you transform to the Beaststalker Tavish. This version is running 1 marked shot and also a harpoon gun, so you can actually dredge something. And the more I think about it, this is actually kinda genius, especially if you're facing Boar Priests, cause this way you could actually get a 1-mana Viper and break their big weapon. But it's kind of a long shot, honestly. We have 1 Explosive Trap, which works really well against aggro decks, we have the Drektar package, combined with Raj, and we have 1 Candle Shot. The rest is pretty much standard Quest Hunter. Again, you can check out my detailed guide about this deck with some coaching gameplay included. Matchup wise, Druids are gonna be rough, and Naga Demon Hunter is gonna be close to 50-50, but like I said, Control Warrior would be a pretty decent matchup for you. Mulligan wise, going first and second again, Drektar always is gonna be a keep. Your cheap removal spells could be pretty good as well. Beaststalker Tavish might make a lot of sense depending on the matchup, and also Dragonbane Shot wouldn't be too bad either. Quick Shot and Aim Shot can also make the cut, but they're not super amazing. 1 on the coin, again, Drektar and Beaststalker Tavish would be best. I'm not sure why Raj is so good here, maybe you just want to tempo it, so you can get your Barb Nets combo or something, but it feels a little bit like a bait. Dragonbane Shot becomes even better of a keep, and still, your cheap removal spells should be good. All in all, the deck is not too expensive, and it's definitely worth the check if you enjoy Hunter and you also want to be climbing. For other good Hunter decks, we have a ton of iterations of Quest Hunter, but there's also a Beast Hunter that's actually doing quite fine, with Wing Commander and King Crush and all sorts of big stuff, so that's kinda interesting. And the sample size is not too small either, so it must be actually working pretty well. Face Hunter is also still somewhat working, but I doubt it's gonna be holding its own as much. So yeah, I guess you have those 3 options for Hunter. On the number 4 spot, we have Hand Buff Paladin, which is also not a bad deck for you to climb with. But as you can see, it's insanely expensive, like how many legendaries is this? A grand total of 10 legendaries, goddamn. But you can actually change Sadon for something like a Viper, let's say. The deck has all sorts of way of buffing your hand, including your Click Clocker, Prismatic Jewel Kit, Seafloor Savior, Alliance Bannerman, and also Overlord Runetack. You also have Carol, which buffs with her hero power later on, and you basically have a lot of card draw in here and a lot of control-y minions. The deck definitely feels strong when you're playing against it, so you might want to give it a check. Matchup wise, here's what it looks like. Mech Mage might not be too good for you, as well as just Mech Paladin, and Freeze Shaman is gonna be freezing those, and Freeze Shaman is gonna be freezing your big boards as well. But all in all, everything else feels pretty decent, including Naga Demon Hunter and Control Warrior, as well as Quest Hunter, so you have that going for you, which is nice. Mulligan wise, going first, you want your good, cheap minions, as well as your weapon. Alliance Bannerman makes the cut, and also Asheron Mooncatcher can be pretty good for you as well. Carol could be a keep, especially if you have some curve going for you, and maybe even Samuro or Carriel depending on the matchup. 1 on the coin, here's what it looks like again, and it looks pretty much the same, although Blade Master Samuro becomes a lot more capable because you will want to have a way to get back on the board. All in all, the deck is definitely very expensive, so be careful crafting this one, but if you have the cards and you enjoy Paladin, this would be a great option for you. For other good Paladin lists, we have also Mech Paladin doing pretty nicely. Holy Paladin also has a decent win rate. There's also a Dragon Paladin, but that's just barely above 50%, so be careful there. And on the number 5 spot, let's talk about Celestial Druid, which is definitely not an easy deck to pilot, but it is one of the best performing ones, and you can even climb to top legend with this one. Celestial alignment basically is using all of the good Ramp Druid cards, but you obviously need to make room for Celestial alignment, as well as Lady Anacondra, and even Escaped Mana Saber, which can be pretty good when timed correctly. You also have a lot of big dragons in this one, because after you switch over to Celestial alignment, you want to be cheating out big stuff. Lady Anacondra makes all of your nature spells down to 0, and that way you can ramp out for a ton. And you also have Malygos in here, which is gonna fill your hand with some good spells. Locklar the Ice Lord can also be pretty clutch for you, especially against Demon Hunters, so you can actually have a good way to get back on the board. Miracle Growth into a couple of Urban skills can stabilize you fairly well as well. So yeah, the deck has a lot of tools, including Spammy Arcanist. Matchup wise, here's what it looks like, and Beast Druid is gonna be wrecking you completely, as well as Face Hunter. Naga Demon Hunter is supposed to be very good against you, even though in my experience sometimes they just high roll too much. Some of the mages can be pretty good, as well as the paladins. And also Quest Warrior is not gonna be great for you as well, and so will Pirate Rogue. But yeah, the matchups are pretty polarizing, so definitely be careful with this one. Mulligan wise, going first, Jerry Rig is gonna be a good keep, as well as Wild Growth, Celestial Alignment, especially if you're curving somewhat into it, Wildcard Guff, and maybe even Lady Anacondra, but you need to have a specific hand, I'm assuming. Escaped Mana Saber can be pretty decent, and maybe even Nourish, although you definitely prefer it from the Jerry Rig. When on the coin, this is what it looks like, and it's again pretty much the same. So yeah, hope this helps you mulligan accordingly. All in all, the deck is definitely not cheap, and like I said, the matchups can be pretty polarizing, so be careful with this one. For other good Druid decks, we also have Ramp Druid. Beast Druid is actually doing somewhat okay again. And there's also some kind of a Ramp Big Druid out there as well, so yeah, you have some different options for Druid right now. That's it for the 5 best decks. Now let's see what are the other decks for the other classes I haven't mentioned. Starting off with Mage, where Mech Mage and Naga Mage are still at the top, but also Amulet Mage is not too bad either. For Priest, Boar Priest actually started to have positive win rate the more people started learning how to play with this deck. Shellfish Priest is just above 50%, and the rest are not doing too good. For Rogue, we have Pirate Rogue at the top, there's also a Highlander Rogue which is below 50%, and there's also this Vandar list out there, which is basically bait and people are getting crushed with it. It's a fun concept, but actually playing Vandar and Shadow Step, playing him again just so you can discount a bunch of minions, that's just not strong enough in today's standards. For Shaman, Burn Shaman and Freeze Shaman are at the top for the class, but not many people are actually using them. For Warlock, we have Mill Death Rattle Warlock, as well as Agony Warlock, but they're both barely above 50%. So yeah, not an amazing time to be playing Warlock. That's gonna be it for this top 5, guys. Hope this helps you figure out what you want to be playing, and also have a better idea of what you might be playing against. Don't forget you can hire me for some Hearthstone coaching, and definitely join the giveaway for tonight's stream. Thanks for watching. I'm Kris05, and I'll see you in my next video, or stream.